Exit polls show Israel's latest election isn't likely to end the country's political deadlock. The stalemate means that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has an uncertain political future amid corruption allegations. The latest exit polls predict neither Netanyahu's right-wing bloc or his opponents will win enough seats to secure a governing majority. Contributor at Axios and author of Axios from Tel Aviv, Barak Ravid, is joining us now to discuss the very latest. So, I don't know, maybe we're heading for yet another election. Barak, current exit polls show a somewhat evenly divided parliament. Just break down what's happening in Israel right now.
Hey, Anne-Marie. Hey, Vlad. I got to tell you something. I think this is one big conspiracy that is meant for us to continue on talking every few months about election day. I think this is what's going on here, if you ask me. But now, seriously, the results, until now, 90% of the votes have been counted. And the results are very interesting, and it shows that Netanyahu's right-wing bloc not only does not have a majority of a 61-seat majority in the parliament, it doesn't even have 60. It's right now, it's on 59, with the possibility, quite good possibility, of going down to 58, which means that the center-left bloc, right now at 61, could even grow by another seat. And every seat here is important because there's a huge difference between a 60-60 result, between a 61 to 59 for Netanyahu, and between a 61 to 59 for the center-left. One main reason for that is that if the center-left does have a 61 majority, even if it can't form a coalition, it can do two important things. First, it can appoint within 2 weeks the Speaker of Parliament and therefore take over the Knesset, take over the Israeli parliament, which would make Netanyahu's life very, very, very difficult. And second, and even more important, once the center-left is in control of the parliament, they can try and pass a law that will ban any member of Knesset that has an indictment against him to run for prime minister. And as you know, Netanyahu doesn't have one indictment, he has 3. So such a law, if it passes, would make it impossible for him to be prime minister. So the results are not only important because of the question of whether we're going to have government or not, whether we're going to have another election or not, but also because of who is going to control parliament. This is why every seat matters here. And if one seat, we still have something like 500,000 votes to count, maybe even more, maybe 600,000. So every vote will matter because if one seat moves from one side to the other, it can change the whole picture.
Yeah, I think sometimes, Barak, when we talk about political gridlock in the United States, Israel says, hold my beer and let me show you what that really looks like. Because the gridlock in the state of Israel has been such that the government hasn't been able to approve a state budget for a couple of years, haven't been able to appoint any key officials, including the state attorney and the senior officials in the Justice and Finance committees. So the question becomes, is this all because we've started to see people that have worked very closely with Bibi Netanyahu over the years, like Gideon Sa'ar and Naftali Bennett, who have now come out in opposition of him? It means that not only is Likud dysfunctional, so is the opposition, which seems that the only thing that they have in common is that they're against the PM.
Yes, I mean, what we see now in Israeli politics, and it was even more evident in this elections than the previous 3 election campaigns we had in the last 2 years, is that in this elections, we had something you guys had in your elections. We had a group of never-Trumpers, that right-wing Israelis, some of them from Netanyahu's own party, that left his party to form a new party with the sole purpose of ousting him from power. And Gideon Sa'ar is the best example. Gideon Sa'ar thought he would get much more votes. He did not. According to the current results, he's supposed to get something like 6 seats. At a certain point, he got 18 or 19. Now he's only with 6. which means that in the non-Bibi right wing, there are not a lot of people, not a lot of votes. So, but still, if Gideon Sa'ar didn't leave Likud and did not run in an independent party, then today Netanyahu would have already celebrated the huge victory and could form a government with the most radical right-wing elements in the Israeli society within days.
So I was going to actually sort of build on that. You know, you laid out what's at risk for him should his party not win a majority. But if his party does, it still sort of seems like he would be squeaking by. So, I mean, what does that mean for Israel? What does that mean for his popularity, his ability to get anything done, even if, you know, his party does have the majority?
Well, first, you know, this is the fourth time, okay? The fourth time that Netanyahu did not win a majority. And it means basically that the majority of Israelis don't want to see him as the prime minister. Their only problem is that they cannot create the political conditions to form an alternative coalition. But if you look at the numbers, the majority of Israelis have said again and again and again, and yesterday again, that they want to change. So for Netanyahu, this is very bad news. And it's also bad news because this comes after the very successful vaccination campaign that Netanyahu led, with a campaign that gets praises around the world and also in Israel. So just imagine, if he did not have the vaccinations, what could have been his political situation. But, you know, this whole thing is connected to one issue, and this is Netanyahu's trial. And today it's April 24th. In 11 days, Netanyahu's trial is going to resume with the phase of hearings of witnesses and evidence. This is where the real drama begins. And Netanyahu is supposed to be 3 times a week sitting in court, you know, listening to the witnesses. This is, you know, an unprecedented situation. And this is why Netanyahu's personal interest and legal interest is to go through election after election after election and to stay in power, because he knows that once he's not the prime minister, this trial will be much more difficult for him to win. And more than that, if Netanyahu is not the prime minister and if he doesn't have a right-wing majority in the Knesset, he cannot fire the attorney general. Okay, reminds you of somewhere in your political history. He cannot fire the attorney general. He cannot pass a law that would delay or suspend his trial. So he cannot pass laws that bypass the Supreme Court. So Netanyahu, the fact that Netanyahu didn't get a majority doesn't only influence his political situation, it also influences his legal situation.
Fascinating. And you're right, Barak.
Yeah, I think there may be something to your conspiracy theory, Barak, because I can't wait till we can talk to you again about this.
Yeah, probably as we get closer to the start date of the trial, or when we figure out if there's been actually a winner declared in this election. But you're right to also point out.
Vlad, I can tell you one thing, and this is, I think it's pretty certain by now, it would take a miracle for this to change according to the current results. Netanyahu did not win those elections, okay? It is yet to be determined if he lost, and more than that, it's yet to be determined if somebody else won.
Really interesting. The good news, though, as you say, Barak, is the successful vaccination effort. Israel is leading the world in vaccinating its population. A very close friend of mine who's Israeli put a photo of her yesterday on Instagram, which I immediately texted her that I was jealous, that she's put on heels, she's going out eating and dancing and having fun in Tel Aviv, and I wish the same for you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.